Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day. So I was talking to a friend recently who's new to working out, and I mentioned I started this YouTube channel. And the suggestion he had for me was to do a video on how to create or set up a workout for an absolute beginner. So that's what we're going to try to tackle today. So first, we got to start off with what your goals are. For purposes of this, I'm going to assume you just want some general health, lose some body fat, gain some lean body mass, improve your overall health and fitness. Now within that though, you could just want general health, but you might also want to work out for a more aesthetic look. So if you want to work out for just general health and fitness, you'll probably be able to get away with doing less exercises. And if you want to go for a certain aesthetic look or build, you'll probably need to add in some extra exercises to hit certain muscles and get those up to a level that you're happy with. So we'll start with the absolute basic building blocks of any exercise routine, right? And we'll go over terminology as well. So the absolute most basic thing are reps, right? A rep or repetition is a single motion of an exercise. For example, if you're doing a bicep curl, this contraction and extension phase, one of those would be considered one rep. And doing a number of reps together is a set, right? And sets then form workouts. You usually do a number of sets per an exercise to focus on a certain muscle group. You group those muscle groups or sets of muscle group exercises together, and that creates a workout. Right. Above that, right, is going to be your workout routine or your workout split. And that's how you separate your different workouts, how you decide which muscles or which exercise you do in each workout, and how you space them out during the week. So we have repetitions, the basic building block. That's a single motion of one exercise. A number of repetitions grouped together is a set. Sets with rest in between combine to be your workout for a specific muscle. The different muscle exercises sets combined together equal your overall workout, and the workouts spread out across the week or however you want to schedule your exercises or your workouts is your overall routine or workout split. So with that basic terminology out of the way, let's get into how you structure a workout. So the most basic and conventional way you can do it is to choose a number of sets you're going to do for an exercise. You do one set, you have a rest period, you do another set, rest period, another set, up to as many sets you're planning to do for that exercise. Now, conversely, you could also have a different approach, right, which has its own pros and cons, and you could do a superset or a circuit, in which case, let's say you have exercises A and B. You could do a set of exercise A, take a very short or no break, do exercise B, then you take your break, then you go back to doing that again. A, short or no break, B, break. And that's what we call a superset. And you could do this if the two exercises A and B are working different muscles that don't overlap. So theoretically, while you're doing exercise B, the muscles in exercise A will be getting a rest and vice versa. Technically, you don't have to take that break after B, but you're still going to build up some overall fatigue, so I would take that break. Although it could be shorter than perhaps the break you would take if you were doing just set exercise A, break, exercise A, break. Now the pros and cons. So the pros obviously are time savings. If you're doing something like a superset or a circuit, i.e. the same thing but with more exercises, then you'll obviously have a shorter workout because you'll have shorter breaks. The cons are, even though your muscles theoretically are resting during exercise A while you do exercise B, you're still building up some overall fatigue. So you might not be able to hit each exercise as hard as you would if you were doing them individually with breaks. But on the plus side, you will also be doing in a circuit or superset manner, be building up a little bit more cardiovascular endurance because you're exerting strength over a longer periods of time with shorter breaks. So those are the two different ways you could approach a workout and the pros and cons of each. Next, we're going to talk about workout splits. I know this is a lot of terminology, some basic stuff. It might be boring for some of you, but I want to approach this as if you were a complete newbie and have never worked out before. And we will get to some workout examples or structured workouts later on in the video, but we'll get there by building up the steps. So we talked about reps, sets, how to do a workout. Now we're going to talk about workout splits. And a workout split is basically how you divide your different muscle groups and exercises throughout the week. For example, you could do a full body workout, meaning you hit basically your full body like it says. Or you could do a push-pull legs, upper lower, right? Meaning in a push-pull legs, you're doing all the pushing muscles together on a workout, all your pulling exercises or muscles together in a workout, and then your legs in a workout. Likewise, upper lower is all upper body in a workout, and then lower body in a workout. So those are different, some examples of workout splits. You can do any type of split you want, but those are popular splits. And how you space them out throughout the week, right, is going to be your overall routine. So we'll talk about some pros and cons of each. So a full body workout is probably the best if you're a beginner, right? You're new, you're probably not pushing yourself as hard as you will be later on when you develop more awareness of the muscles and really that connection and how to push hard. And you probably won't need as much time as you'll need later on as you become perhaps more intermediate as a lifter to be able to hit your whole body. This also allows you to do less workouts per week, right? Because you're hitting your overall body in one workout. So you can do that twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. At least twice a week is what I would shoot for. And definitely allow a day or two of rest in between. Right? Very important part of building lean body mass is recovery, and that's the rest you get between workouts because that's where your muscles actually build by repairing for the damage you do during the workout. Now, the pros and the cons, like I said, the pros are you can work out less times a week if you do a full body workout routine. The cons is that since you're getting your overall body in that one workout, it's going to be a longer workout each time you're in the gym. Right? And usually people start with that, and people often progress to a push-pull type of split. So push-pull, like I said before, is all the pushing muscles, right, in a workout, and the pulling muscles in a separate workout. And the reason people split it that way is because a lot of pushing muscles help each other, right, in exercises, right? They're synergistic, and a lot of pulling muscles are synergistic. So they group those together, so that way when you're doing your pull workout, your push muscles are resting, and vice versa. And people often still have a leg workout, so people do push-pull legs, right? Because the legs are mostly unconnected to your upper body, maybe a little bit of core, but overall it's not as connected to your upper body, so you can let those muscles rest while doing your legs. Now you could also integrate your legs into either your push or your pull day if you don't want to work out so many days a week. Because if you do push-pull legs and you want to hit each muscle at least twice a week, that's going to be 6 days of exercising a week, and that's a pretty big commitment. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be willing to do that, especially if you're just a normal person like this channel is for, Normie Fitness. I didn't want to work out 6 days a week. So I was doing a push-pull for a while, and I just integrated my legs into one of my workout days. In my case, the push day, because I was doing a lot more exercises on pull. So we did overall full body, we did push-pull and legs. Another popular split is upper-lower, right? Just like the name indicates, this is when one workout is all of your upper body muscles, and another workout is your lower body muscles. So like the push-pull, same thing. While you're doing your upper body exercises, your legs are resting. While you're doing your leg workout, your upper body is resting. Right? Pros and cons are that the upper-lower is going to let you work out less days than a push-pull legs routine because you only have 2 workouts. So if you do that twice a week, that's 4 workout days a week. A con might be that your upper workout day is going to be quite long because you're grouping 2 workouts together. Now I said might be because I've recently switched to a bit more of an upper-lower workout routine because I've been implementing a superset technique. So before I was doing a push-pull with legs integrated into my push day, but I was working out I was spending more time in the gym than I was wanting to, right? Because I was taking not big breaks, but I was taking breaks between exercises because when I'm doing a push day, all those muscles are synergistic. So I can't really jump from exercise to exercise because the muscles are overlapping. But what I realized is if I do a upper-lower, is I can implement supersetting because I'm working, right, unrelated muscle groups or antagonistic muscle groups. So the pro was that it allowed me to have one workout that was a little bit longer, but shorter than having to push and pull separate, right? I didn't have my leg workout day, and I do work out some legs, but it's not as important to me. So that's a shorter exercise, and I group a few supplementary exercises into my leg day. Now the con is that I might not be able to hit each muscle quite as hard as I did when I separated them into push-pull with bigger rests in between, but I'm a normal guy. I'm not trying to go for some maximum gains, so that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. Like everything in life, just like in fitness, there are trade-offs, right? There's endurance versus strength. There's gaining lean body mass versus losing fat. There's how strong you want to get, how much time you want to put into the gym. There's always trade-offs. There's pros and cons to each, and you have to find the right balance for you depending on what your goals are. But those are some of the most common workout splits: full body, push-pull legs, and upper-lower. Okay, now that we've gotten all the terminology and all the basic information out of the way, let's build an actual workout routine. So if you're a complete beginner, I would probably recommend starting out with a full body routine. And now we're going to have to determine what you want to do. So if your goal is just to build some overall health and build some overall muscle and lose some weight and just be more fit and more capable in your general daily activities, then you could probably use less exercises. I would stick to some basic compound movements. You should do a compound pushing exercise. I would say the push-up is a great way to start. If you want to do free weights, you could start with a barbell or dumbbell bench press. All right, that's going to work a lot of your upper body pushing muscles. You're going to work your chest, your anterior delts, your triceps, as well as your core. So that will cover basically all your pushing muscles. Then I would do a compound pulling exercise. For example, that would be like a pull-up. Or if you're a complete beginner, you might not be able to do pull-ups yet. So I would do some version of an inverted row, right? An easier version that you can progress up to a higher version and eventually get to pull-ups. And that's going to work all your upper body pulling muscles, right? You might notice a theme here. This coincides with your push-pull leg split, except you're kind of doing mainly one overall compound exercise for each of those splits. Then I would do one compound exercise for my lower body, probably something like a squat. Those three exercises are going to cover most of your bases. If you want, you could add in some kind of core exercise as well. But if you're doing your push-ups properly, your inverted rows properly, you'll be getting some core exercise in as well. So if you do that for your full body routine, if you're a beginner, you should probably aim to do 2 or 3 days a week. I would leave a day in between to rest and do 3 sets of push-ups, as many as you can, 3 sets of your compound pulling exercise, right? In this case, we'll say inverted rows, as many as you can. And then 3 sets of, let's say, body weight squats, because you're starting out as many as you can. And the way you can approach this is you can either do push-ups, take a break, 2 or 3 minutes, at least 2 minutes, maybe longer if you feel like you need more for recovery. Right? If you still feel really worn out and tired on your next set, then you can rest a little bit longer. And you can do that for your 3 sets. And then follow up with the same thing for your pull-ups and follow up the same thing for your squats. Or if you really want to be more time efficient, then you can do your push-ups, then your pull-ups, then your squats, take a break, and cycle that again 3 times, and you'll be up in and out of the gym probably relatively quick, and you'll be building that starting foundation. Now, if your goal is to be a bit more aesthetic, right, you want to build a certain look, then you probably want to add a few extra exercises to that. So those are compound movements. The pushing is going to hit all your upper body pushing exercises, but its primary focus is probably going to be your chest. That's what's going to do the most heavy lifting in your push-up. So if you want to round that out, you're going for a more aesthetic build, you might want to add something in for your shoulders and your triceps more directly, in which case I would add something like lateral raises for your shoulders to build those side delts to get that wider shoulder look that you want. And for triceps, you could either do a push-up variant, like some narrow hand position push-ups, or you could do something on the cables if you have access to cables, or you could do some skull crushers on the bench with some dumbbells if that's all you have. Or if you have rings, you could do some tricep extensions on the rings. But if you're a beginner, you probably want to keep that relatively high angle to keep the difficulty low, and you could progress with a lower angle as you go, as you get stronger. Now, for your pulling, right, that inverted row, it's going to get your overall pulling muscles, but it's going to be mostly your back. That's going to be the big target of it. So you might want to add some bicep work in to round things out, in which case you could just do simple bicep curls. You could do regular standard bicep curls, or you could do Bayesian curls. I mean, the biceps are a pretty simple muscle. As long as you get good effort into an elbow flexion exercise, you should be pretty good. For the legs, squat, once again, great overall lower body exercise. but it's going to be a little bit more glute heavy. So you could add something like a good morning or a lunge, right, to get a little bit more of your glutes in and some hamstrings. So that's how I would approach an overall body routine for an absolute beginner. So that was a lot of information for a beginner. We just built out some workout routines. I'll try to create a graphic and put that up together for a more easy visual breakdown of those exercise routines. But let's talk a little bit about the composition of those routines. So the compound movements, right, that we talked about, which was the original 3 that were probably the building blocks, the basic foundation of your exercise that we started with if you were going for overall health, I think those are probably the most important exercises. The reason why is because those are going to get the most muscles worked in, right, because you got different muscle groups working in that motion. And it'll challenge your body a bit more overall systemically versus some of those smaller accessory movements that you added in for aesthetic purposes. But really the reason why you want to build around those, and I prefer to build around those, is that life is unpredictable, right? At least for me, I don't have a regular job. I'm a freelancer, so sometimes I got more work, sometimes I have less work. I'm kind of on call and working at random times, so sometimes it's hard to stick to an exact workout routine. So sometimes you have to cut a workout short, and in that case, if you're building around those compound movements, at least you'll get some work in on all those accessory muscles in the compound movements. So if you've done your compound push exercise, pull exercise, and leg exercise, and something comes up and you have to split, you can't finish the rest of your workout, at least you got some of those other muscles worked in as well, right? If you have more time, you want to complete that full workout, that's great. But if something comes up, you cover most of your bases with those compound lifts. Now, as for the individual exercises, I don't want this video to be crazy and long. I don't think anybody wants to see my face and hear me talking for that long in one shot. So I'm not going to break down each specific exercise and technique. But I do have videos covering most of these exercises if you want to check out my channel. So that's why I'm not going to actually demonstrate all of these, because the video is going to go on forever. So I've talked about reps, sets, workouts. But a question a lot of people often ask is, what weight do I use and how many do I do it for? So that really depends on you. All right, if you see someone doing something in a video, I see comments all the time, oh, how many reps should I do? How many sets should I do? How much weight? And that person can't tell you because that person doesn't know who you are. That person doesn't know how strong you are. That person doesn't know your fitness level. So a good rule of thumb I like to use is 8 to 15 reps, right? And what that means is you got to pick a weight where that's the most you can do, right? You're not going to pick up a weight that you can easily do 20 reps of, but you're cutting off at 15 because I said do only 8 to 15 reps. So what you're using this for is a way to gauge intensity, right? Or have adequate resistance. So you want to pick a weight where you can only perform 8 to 15 repetitions of. So you start at 8, and as you get stronger, you'll be able to do more and more. And by the time you're hitting 15 repetitions, then you could increase the weight and it gets you back to 8 or whatever, maybe a little more than 8. And then you can work your way back up. Now, if you're young, you're healthy, you're strong, you could do a lower rep range than this. You could build a lot of muscle with a lower rep range. But as my age, I like to use slightly higher, right? 8 to 15 with a not max weight, right? A little bit lighter weight than I could do if I was doing something like 6 to 8 reps. Because the higher weight I do, the more stress that is on my joints, and there's always a higher risk of injury, right? When I was younger, I'd probably be doing maybe less reps and a higher weight, right? Pushing harder that way. But now as I get older and longevity and health more of a concern, I pick a weight that I can manage for maybe 8 to 15, and I'm pushing a little bit more on the repetitions rather than the overall load. So I know that's what I said for weights, but I mentioned a lot of body weight exercises, things like push-ups and inverted rows. Right? If I was doing push-ups, by the time I get to like 20 solid good push-ups, I would probably progress to a more advanced push-up. Right? Do deficit push-ups, ring push-ups, things like that. Similarly for inverted row, right? You're starting more upright. If you're a beginner, and once you can start doing, with the inverted row, I would say maybe not 20. The push-up is probably more of a 20 rep type of thing. It's a bit easier. For inverted row, let's say you're hitting 15. Let's treat that more like a free weight exercise. If you're hitting 15, I would start lowering that angle to increase that resistance level. Then eventually you work your way to pull-ups. And if you're doing 15 pull-ups, you're probably pretty strong. Then you could do advanced pull-ups after that, but not a lot of people are doing 15 clean pull-ups already. Squats, I would go with a higher number, closer to that 20 range, like the push-ups, right? Once you're doing 20 good solid body weight squats, then I would start doing some more progressive exercises of that, right? You could do weighted ones, you could do ballistic ones, you try to work your way towards a pistol or one-legged squat. So that's how I would treat progression and how to pick your weight or resistance level and the number of repetitions I would do for a beginner. So we've covered all the basics and concepts, but let's talk a little bit about what you do in between your workouts. So regular person thinks that you gotta be in the gym all the time, working hard, pushing hard, working out for hours and hours a day, and that's how you get results. But the truth is that quite the opposite. So what's really important, and where I kind of fail as well, is that recovery or your time between workouts is where the growth really happens, right? So when you're exercising, you're breaking down your muscles, you're giving your body a stimulus, a reason for it to adapt. And when you're resting in between workouts, when your body's recovering, that's when the muscles are actually getting stronger and building. And that's when your growth happens. So it's very important to get rest. Don't overtrain, right? So that's why I said, get at least a day between workouts. It could be 2. It's really going to be depending on how you feel. If you do work out, you take a day off and you come back and you still feel really worn out, right? All your exercises, you're feeling weaker, you're not doing as much weight, or you're doing less reps, and this is a consistent thing, right? Not just a one-off bad day, then you're probably not resting enough in between to allow yourself to recover, right? Sleep is very important, and that's where I fail at. I'm really bad at getting enough sleep. But sleep is super important to your recovery and to actually getting results. So if you're not recovering, then you probably have to figure out how to break up your workout, either get more rest or maybe change your workout split to allow specific muscles to get more rest in between. But recovery is key, and sleep is very important, even though I suck at it. I'd probably be looking a lot better and doing a lot better if I got better sleep. So I've been talking mainly about weight training and working out, but obviously there's also a cardio component to your fitness journey as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. And the truth is that cardio is not that important, at least to weight loss. Now, cardio is great, don't get me wrong. If you want to build heart health, cardio is great. So there are obviously a lot of great benefits to cardio, and I'm never going to say don't do cardio. But if your goal is basically to lose weight and gain lean body mass, then cardio is a little bit overrated. Right? A lot of people think you have to do a lot of cardio to burn calories, to lose weight. But honestly, you're never going to be able to burn enough calories to really make a significant difference if that's your main driver of your weight loss. A lot of it's going to come from your caloric deficit. But you still want to have some general heart health. And my preferred method of cardio is low intensity, steady state cardio. So that's something like walking, right? But not just casual walking. I try to walk my dog about 3 miles a day, and I try to walk relatively briskly. But the key is you want to get your heart rate to around 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. That's your target for general weight loss and health benefits of a low intensity steady state cardio. So a rough way to calculate your max heart rate is 220, subtract your age from that. So minus your age from 220, that's your loose max heart rate, multiply that by 0.6 to 0.7, and that's kind of where you want your heart rate range in when you're doing your cardio, whether that's brisk walking or jogging or whatever you want to do that's sustainable. And that's your target range. But the most important thing, why I choose this for my cardio, is because it's something I can do. There's nothing wrong with cardio. I just don't prefer cardio. But I like to walk my dog. I like to get out. And it's something I know I can maintain and I can do daily. So just like anything else in life, if you can't stick to it, you're not getting results. You have the best workout plan. You can know what the best cardio to do. You want to be super intense. You're going to sprint. You're going to swim. And that's all great, but if it's not something you can actually stick to and implement and work into your regular life routine, it's not going to work. So I prefer walking my dog. If you like to jog, that's great. If you could do higher intensity if you want as well. But for a lot of people, high intensity cardio is great if you enjoy the activity, but it can be really taxing. So a low intensity steady state cardio will work great as well. But if you like to play basketball, you like to swim, all those are great. Do whatever you like to do and you enjoy to do that you actually realistically, not aspirationally, be able to fit into your daily routine. Now, like I said, caloric deficit is the main driver to weight loss, but this video has gone long enough, so I'll probably save diet for a different video. So if you made it to here, that's awesome. I really appreciate it, everybody. I hope it was helpful. I hope it didn't drag for way too long. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be amazing. If you have any questions, comments, or anything I got wrong, because I'm not an expert, I'm not perfect, then put those in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great day.